Hi, so welcome back, and I have tried to make a new video with the same topic of current account, but here we are going to look at the causes, and I hope the resolution is a little better. I have tried to increase the font size, and I'll just do a little bit of the resolution again so that it becomes easier. So what causes a current account deficit? What are the causes of a current account deficit? So the first cause, and I'll be using Susan Grant as a text because it is more accessible text. So the first thing could be that incomes abroad are higher. Sorry, incomes at home are higher than abroad. What does this mean? Just hold on for a second and try to ingest it. Try to understand what it exactly means. Incomes at home are higher than abroad. That means that people may not demand your exports abroad, so exports would be falling. And if people have higher incomes at home, that means they may demand more imports. Imports may be higher, and exports are lower. So you have a current account deficit, right? This may not always be a bad thing, but it can cause a current account deficit, and a current account deficit can affect the exchange rate. And yes, number two, high exchange rate. So if we have a floating exchange rate, and if there is a high exchange rate, or the currency is revalued or appreciated, revalued by the government in a managed float, and if it is appreciated in a floating exchange rate, what would happen is that the exports would become expensive, imports would become cheaper, and when imports are greater than exports, or we would have a current account deficit, or current account deficit would start to rise. So yeah, these two things may result in a current account deficit. What else? And we talked about this in the previous video as well, which is the structural deficit. And structural deficit happens when the businesses, domestic businesses, are no longer competitive. Domestic businesses are no longer competitive internationally, which means they are losing out to importers on price, on quality. And I've seen this in Pakistan and in other places as well. We prefer imported stuff. Why? Because it doesn't give us the feel like, Fauji foods, they make cornflakes and they make other cereals as well. But yeah, Kellogg's, people go after that. Why? Because you don't get the feel, you don't get the texture or the taste for a particular thing. So if your particular domestic industry is not able to compete internationally with importers, the imports are going to increase in the economy, the exports are going to fall, and the current account deficit may rise. And when we talk about that domestic businesses are no longer competitive, it could be because they are not cost effective, they may have inferior quality, they may lack the resources, not sufficient resources available. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, and what else? What else? What else? So yeah, the other thing which could happen is because of something known as a cyclical deficit, and cyclical deficit was point number one. I'll just write over here so that we know what is the name for this phenomena. Usually when we are, and I'll just do this so that you know that it is not a cause or anything, it is just the name of this. Yeah. What else? What else? What else? I think that's about it. So I'll stop. There could be others also, but just to keep it short and smooth, this is what it is. And if you, yeah, so current account deficit causes, it could be because of cyclical deficit, which means incomes are at home are higher than abroad, which means our exports are falling and imports are rising. Current account deficit may happen. Growth can also be because we may require more imports also. Yeah. Um, uh, so that is one other reason. A high exchange rate would make exports more expensive, and if the exports are elastic, the demand would fall. If the imports are more cheaper and they're elastic, the import expenditure would increase, and the current account deficit may rise again. Structural deficit happens when the businesses, they are not able to compete internationally with importers, which means they are not cost effective, or they are of inferior quality, or they do not have sufficient resources to compete. Thus, this is going to you know result in an increase in imports and a decrease in exports. So current account deficit may rise. I hope you like this video. Please leave a comment and let me know if this helped you or not. Thanks.